we are live. What's up, everybody? This is the Cerebral Spice Rack. We're here for another episode. As always, I'm your host, Everett Heath. And we're going to be talking about Fauci today, all of the stuff he's done, all of the, really shitty research, and not just shitty, but the unethical research he's done, not just on animals, but also on children. So I'm really excited to get all this information out there to you guys. And we got my friend Chris here, and we got Nick, so I'll let them introduce themselves while I get this shared out really quick. So if you want to introduce yourself first, Nick?
Yeah.
Or Chris, sorry.
I'm just a defender of liberty and gun rights. Your average archetype of the man who just wanted to be left alone. Here with Devilry today. Let's go.
Yep. And if you wanted to introduce yourself really quick, Nick?
Yeah, from Sacramento.
Anyways, let's get on into these first few links here. So it's all about Fauci, so we're going to go right into who Fauci is. We're not going to be going too deep here, but we're just going to give a quick bio on him. Oh my god, of course I get the pop-ups the one time. Okay, here we go. So, Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci, he was appointed director of the NIAID, the National Institute for the Allergy and Infectious Diseases, in 1984. He oversees extensive research and applied research to prevent, diagnose, and treat established infectious diseases such as HIV and AIDS. And this is one of his biggest things, HIV and AIDS, back in the 80s. And obviously, since the COVID pandemic started, he's been, a main player in that since it started. And this is one key thing to take out. The NIAID budget for the fiscal year 2021 is an estimated $6.1 billion. So he's got over $6 billion that he can spread out and fund research to every year. So, and we're going to be getting into some of that research.
He's like the head honcho that calls a lot of the shots.
Exactly. So the first one, before we get into the research, I just want to show you guys what kind of person Fauci is, what kind of person he thinks he is. And as someone with a scientific background, I got my degree in microbiology. This is one of the most egregious statements I've ever heard from somebody who proclaims to be a scientist. So here's the quote, and he said this, I think, it was about a year ago, where he says, "Attacks on me, quite frankly, are attacks on science. All of the things I've spoken about consistently from the very beginning have been fundamentally based on science. Sometimes those things were inconvenient truths for people." And this is just such fucking bullshit, because as you guys seen in, I think it was episode 8 that we did, The Insanity of the Media, we had a couple of Fauci links in there, and we showed his flip-flops. And these aren't like scientific things that science updates, obviously, but this isn't due to science, this is due to politics. And if you guys go back and watch that episode, it's very clear, but it's going to be even clearer in this episode, because we're going to be fact-checking him on the fly. But anyways, did you guys have anything to add on the attacks on me or attacks on science quote?
I think Rand Paul said it the best when it was he had confronted him and told him just absolute hubris, the hubris of that man to make such a comment of that magnitude. I myself have a degree in chemistry, and I'm not walking around telling people that that their defiance of any recommendation or advice I give in the scientific field is an attack literally on science and all that is holy, But
no, it's the opposite of what science is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be about any one person. It's supposed to be a method of finding out what is the real world, what is reality. And for a person to say that he is the science, it's just the most crazy thing I've ever heard.
Well, that's how people like Fauci continue to evade any sort of accountability in the event where they're wrong. It's like, the science evolved, so I was right yesterday, but I'm wrong today. Yeah.
Exactly. Did you have anything to add on that, Nick?
No, yeah, the whole thing, the whole thing saying you can't attack the science, dude. Like, science is an ever-evolving thing. Like, it's not fucking set. The science is never settled. You know what I mean? The science is never settled. Like 50% of women died after childbirth because they were going back and forth from the morgue and delivering babies.
Wait, 50% of babies going back from the from what?
No, the moms of fucking kids back in the day before they had soap.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, dude, like the dude that fucking like pitched it out there, like, hey, we could, wash our shit with lye, right? Like a mixture of lye to make soap, like it would make things more safer. He was vilified. He was fucking vilified by the science community. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this has been happening with science, because this is what happens. People claim they're on the science when that's the opposite of the scientific method. You all go all the way back to Galileo, saying that the Earth was not the center of the universe, and having the complete Catholic Church and everyone going against you and saying that you're wrong. When he was factually correct. And it's really sad how these political figures, they take advantage of what is supposed to be a method, and they take advantage of it for their own means and their own political gain. So, anyways, just to give you guys a little quick, visualization of who Fauci is. So, we'll get to the actual some of the egregious experiments that he's done, and these are some of the worst things. These are things that I've found that have direct links to Fauci and the NIAID. So these are not like just hearsay. These are things that he personally funded, and signed off on. So, and the first one we're gonna get into is the dog experiment. So I'm sure some of you guys have heard about this, but Fauci under fire, and this is over 6 months ago now, but he's under fire over a report alleging the NIAID spent $400,000 on research infecting dogs with parasites. So, and what happened in this is he put these suction cups on beagles' faces and their bodies with flesh-eating flies, to see how long they could endure the pain, how long they could endure the infectious disease that the flies were giving them. And it's just, it's really grueling, what this kind of research that he's been doing. It's not really forwarding science at all. A lot of these experiments that we do in science, they're for a good reason, although a lot of them can be argued to be unethical. This is a clear one that's just crazy. So let's get into it a little bit. So a report from the White Coast Waste Project that was based on a Freedom of Information Act with the NIAID found that more than $400,000 in taxpayer money was spent on canine experiments during which beagles were infected with parasites via biting flies. And so we'll show you guys a video of this, but I just want to give you guys a little bit more. So the documents obtained through FOIA show evidence of a study in which otherwise healthy beagles were treated with an experimental medication before being introduced to biting flies that were carrying a parasite known to be contagious to humans. So I guess that's how they excuse what they're doing to these, but there hasn't been any meaningful or significant results coming from this research. So, and just going further with it, the records obtained by the White Coast Waste Projects showed that the dogs endured months of pain, and once researchers were done with them, they were killed. So we'll just I'll play you guys a video really quick so you can see the kind of stuff that was happening to these dogs, and while we just kind of talk about it a little bit. So what are your thoughts on this, Chris, coming from somebody of your background?
I mean, first of all, it's just to read such repulsive details from those experiments that were conducted. There's some level of just aggression and rage.
I mean, look at this, the poor dogs. They're just being hooked
it's
up on
difficult for me
fucking
to maintain
life
composure
support.
just seeing stuff like that. I mean, this is real. The report that he was pulling up was from early August, and this didn't end up catching steam, I think, for at least 2 or 3 months. So, I mean, there was people that were, doing reading into just how egregious the bureaucratic institutions that conduct these things really
I mean, look at it. They're just look at them. They're just slamming the dogs down. They're throwing them in their cages. And then another thing we heard is that they cut their vocal cords so they couldn't bark or whine, obviously, because they're going to be doing a lot of that if they're getting tortured. But just the fact that they did that is some sick people we're dealing with. And as you guys seen from those
there's
those
millions
images,
of people who place their faith in people like Fauci and the people that conduct those experiments.
Exactly, and then they just treat these
like on a religion level.
And they treat these animals like they're dirt, like they're not even fucking lives to be respected or cared about. Like, like I said, I understand the need for some of this research, but to do it so callously and so like heartlessly, it's really sad. But did you have anything to add on that, Nick?
No, it's pretty fucked up, dude.
It's pretty fucked up,
I don't see any fucking real need for that kind of research. You know what I mean? Like, necessarily, we need to find out how fast fucking flies can eat your face off.
Yes,
I really don't see anything coming from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
you must have gotten bitten by a beagle as a kid, man. It's a vindictive project.
It really is. I know.
Because I got animals, dude. I got 2 cats and a pit bull, dude. Fuck. Anybody that's willing to fucking just hurt a defenseless animal is a piece of shit,
Yeah, especially for no reason. Because if they had a reason, if there was significant research that was done, with these studies that they did on these beagles, they would put it out as fast as they could to get the blame off of them. They could be like, oh, we had to do that because we had this beneficial research to all of humankind. But they don't even have that. They're just doing this to the dogs just to do it to them. And there's countless examples of other agencies doing stuff like this. But this is one that's directly linked to Fauci. He signed off on it, and he's responsible for what happened to those dogs. So this is just dogs, and we're not even in the thick of it yet. And I only have 3 of these.
Oh, dude, what they're doing to humans.
Exactly,
Right now.
and we're gonna be
what they're doing to humans right now. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And we'll definitely be getting to that.
I feel like these types of experiments are conducted with such little trepidation because they know that there's not enough people to cause enough uproar to actually do anything about it. So they don't have any to absolve themselves for any guilt by publishing results from what they're doing, because why would they give a shit?
Yeah, other than the White Coat Waste Project, it's like nobody else cares about. I mean, Rand Paul does his Festivus every year, talking about all the government waste that's happening. It just seems like, if people were showed this information, I know they care, but it's just like it's being suppressed, by the media. It's like they're putting out a general sense of apathy towards all of this, which is just really, once again, really sad. But anyways, not only did he do experiments on beagles, but he's also been doing experiments on macaque monkeys for the past 30 years. So we'll get into this. Fauci blasted by PETA for using monkeys in horrendous HIV experiments. So the people for PETA blasted Fauci in a letter Thursday, allowing the NIAID to continue using monkeys in HIV and AIDS vaccination experiments. So the macaque model for developing a vaccine for HIV has failed. After nearly 40 years of painful, deadly, expensive experiments, a vaccine is still not on the market, the letter states, and this letter is from PETA. So that's the basic idea. They've been doing these experiments on macaques for the past 40 years, injecting them with HIV, or the monkey version, which is SIV, which doesn't transfer over to humans. If they make a vaccine for this SIV, that's not going to transfer over biologically to humans. It's not going to work, which they admit in their it's somewhere in here, but I don't want to look for it. But anyways, yeah, they've been basically doing the same thing with those dogs. They've been torturing these monkeys, injecting them with a debilitating disease for the past 40 years with no results at all, and they're just wasting our money every year. And it's just sad, man. I was trying to find, there was another experiment they were doing on monkeys, like to see how much pain they could endure, but that was just generally funded by the NIH, so I couldn't find a direct link to Fauci. But this one has a direct link to Fauci. He has signed off on this and funded it for the past 40 years, and there have been no results. And they continue to do this with these poor fucking macaque monkeys that don't have a voice, they don't have a say for anything that's done to them. They don't have, they can't volunteer for this, obviously. They don't know English, and this quote's actually really relevant. PETA is pushing Fauci to shift to modern, human-relevant research that reduces animal research. And I definitely agree with that. If you're going to do research on something, let's do research on stuff that'll actually work and not torture, beings needlessly for our, I don't know, sick, kind of vindictive personal feelings. I mean, I don't know why he would be doing this and keep doing it. If it was me in charge, maybe we'd do 1 or 2 years of monkey research. And if there was nothing coming up, then I'd end it. There's no results. You're wasting taxpayer money. So, anyways, do you guys have anything to add to this? No.
There's nothing that I would be able to add that any reasonable person wouldn't be able to see reading from that. Mm-hmm. I think the first problem was entrusting the government to innovate something in the advancement of science sector. I think that would be your worst mistake, is trusting them to innovate something that the private sector would be able to do with a lot less waste.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to add on that, Nick?
No.
Okay, got you. Yeah. So, anyways, super fucked up, and not only are they doing that to animals, but they're also doing it to foster children. And this is a story that went by the wayside because nobody was paying attention to Fauci 15 years ago. But this happened all the way back it got reported on in 2005, but this was happening through the 90s. So anyways, get into it. Earlier this May, the AP reported that the National Institutes of Health researchers tested AIDS drugs on hundreds of foster children in the late 1980s and 90s. In many instances, the drugs were given without independent advocates who monitor the safety of these children. And we'll just go to a quick fact check by the AP on this. So they say, of course, with any fact check that these fuckers are doing these days, they said that missing context. And of course, the claim is Fauci funded experiments on orphans with AIDS and 25 of them died, which is true. But they didn't die from the drugs, but they died under his care, in these research trials. But anyways, they say missing context. The NIAID, which Fauci runs, did fund clinical trials evaluating HIV and AIDS treatments that enrolled HIV-positive children both in and out of foster care. So they're admitting that they've admitted foster children who don't have parents, who don't have any way to consent for themselves because they're children who don't have any kind of guardianship around them. And they were testing AIDS drugs on these people. And for the AP to come out and be like missing context, they're just trying to defend this piece of shit. He's a complete garbage fucking piece of shit. And I just want to read a couple more things here. So the NIAID, which Fauci has directed since 1984, and the National Institute for Child Health and Human Development both provided funding for the trials. So this is directly linked back to Fauci. He funded trials on foster children who couldn't give no consent for themselves. And this is the most ghastly one of all of them. Why would you ever do scientific trials on not just people, who desperately need treatment, but children who can't even voice for themselves, voluntary consent. They can't do it. They don't have society. Exactly the most vulnerable. They don't have the mental capacity to make decisions for themselves. And he fucking goes in and pumps them full of these HIV drugs, which it could have been done for a good reason. But don't use fucking foster children, especially foster children. Of course, regular children would already be egregious. But using foster children who have no fucking advocate or no say what's happening to them, and then 25 of them die, they might not have died from the drugs themselves, but it's still just it's insane that we're still following Fauci and people like this when this is from the AP. It's a fact check. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? Because I this kind of person should not hold any sort of public office or even be a medical doctor, in my opinion. They should have all their licenses revoked for anything like this. This is so unethical. Anyways, do you have anything to add, Chris?
As far as the AP article that the viewers are seeing goes, devil's in the details, man. Just below the missing context, they provide just enough information that is it's incriminating against the NIH and a lot of their research efforts. I'm sure most of you people know that the fact checkers are third-party independent persons. They're not legitimately fact checkers. A lot of these people you've come to find, So,
yeah, and they'll even defend somebody who's testing drugs on foster children. Anyway, do you have anything to add, Nick?
Well, that's the MO, dude. Prisoners and fucking foster kids.
Yep. I mean,
the fucking, dude, what was it, the fucking Tuskegee experiments where they fucking infected people with fucking,
what was it?
Infecting them with
syphilis, yeah.
Syphilis. Yeah, just to study it, you know what I mean?
It's
wasn't that the Tuskegee experiments?
See shit.
Yeah, and that was
in real time. In real time, though, the shit coming up, and it's they can't run from it. Yeah.
Nope, it's all here, and the saddest thing is that all the information's here, and there's still people out here buying Fauci bobbleheads, fucking praising him like he's some type of saint when he's done shit like this. It's just it's so frustrating. Anyways, that's why I put together this episode, because Fauci is not a good person. He's a fucking evil, fucking maniacal old man, dude. He's when you go to mad, fucked up scientists like the Nazi scientists. This is what Fauci is. This is what kind of person he is.
Mengelian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, anyways, the last thing on the HIV, we'll just show you guys how wrong Fauci was on the whole HIV thing when it was coming out, just like he's wrong on COVID now. So we'll just play you a little clip. Make sure the audio's on here. So this is what. Anyway, this is what Fauci said about HIV back in the 80s. So we'll just play.
Maybe starting to see, as we're seeing virtually as the months go by, other groups that can be involved, and seeing it in children is really quite disturbing.
When you say other close contact, give me some examples.
Well, for example, if the close contact of a child is a household contact, perhaps there will be a certain number of cases of individual who are just living with and in close contact with someone with AIDS or at risk of AIDS, who does not necessarily have to have intimate sexual contact or share a needle, but just the ordinary close contact that one sees in normal interpersonal relationships. We may be.
So you guys can see how wrong he was. Right there in that clip, he's saying that if you just live in close contact with someone with HIV, this is back in the 80s, that they could give you the disease. And maybe this was based on not enough science being out, but you can see how wrong he was. And this is what fueled the, the hatred towards homosexuals back in the 80s and 90s. Thinking he put out this sort of stuff that said you can get HIV from just fucking standing next or sharing a drink with somebody that has HIV, and this is what caused all the bullying, all the assaults that happened, and he's partially responsible for all of it, just like he's responsible for all the things he said about COVID.
But the science is settled, guys. Apparently.
Yeah.
I wonder if the trust the science people have seen anything like this. I don't know.
Yeah, and he was so fucking wrong, and like when we learned about HIV, like when I learned about HIV and evolution, like it is a hell of a fucking disease. It is fucked up. But the one thing that it can't do is just hop from person to person through, lip contact or just regular physical contact. It has to be intimate. There has to be blood to blood transfusion for the disease to pass. It doesn't just pass through touching each other. Like he created this whole fucking, he fearmongered people into thinking that just by touching someone with AIDS they were gonna get it. It's just it's sickening. And maybe he didn't know. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt at this moment. Maybe he didn't know, but we can know from this clip that how wrong he was and how his statements. We'll go back to him. He was wrong on this shit. He was so wrong. He was wrong about HIV then, just like he's wrong about COVID now. Anyways, do you guys have anything to add on that?
Yeah, blood, breast milk, rectal fluids, vaginal fluids, semen. Those are the 5 things where the HIV virus, at least as far as science goes, we know is concentrated in those particular regions. What he's saying there is it's a contradiction of what modern science today knows to be true about this terrible virus. And the information that he's propagating here would be enough to be exiled from all forms of social media, but there's a double standard that people like Anthony Fauci can enjoy that the rest of us do not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Do you have anything to add on that, Nick?
No, dude. So it's like when you're wrong and you're like really wrong, you're supposed to like lose your job or like not be there. Dude.
Yes.
The problem with the government, anything involved with the government, is these fucking people fail up.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And like in a free market, if you get a diminishing return on your investment or you're involved in some kind of business practices, like if you suck, dude. Like you move on. But that's not what happens in the government.
Nope. Yeah, they can make
people just stay entrenched.
Mm-hmm.
They stay. They fucking just stay. They just fucking stay.
Yeah, and
and it's like fucking. It just gets brushed over, and they're just there making bad decisions for all this fucking amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, he's the highest paid government official right now. I think he makes like upwards of $400,000 a year.
You would have thought upon discovering the error of his ways and the misinformation that he had contributed to propagating, then he would have humbled himself not to make a fucking statement like, "Oh, an attack on me is an attack on the science." Dude, he's clearly been wrong a myriad of times. So I mean, that reason alone is legitimate cause to dislike the hell out of him. Just that alone.
Yeah. Anyways, now we're going to get into the fact-checking portion where Fauci went to Congress to explain some of his positions and reasoning on some of the things he did. over COVID, and we're gonna show you guys right now. He straight up lies. So let's watch it really quick. So this is Fauci's exchange with Rand Paul, and these have been some of the best exchanges that I've seen. Because Rand Paul, he's great. He's a medical doctor. He's an ophthalmologist, and he knows bullshit when he sees it. And he knows this fucker is lying. I would be doing the same thing because I have all the fucking documents right there to prove him wrong. But anyways, I got the little clip that we need.
Fauci has a lot of behavioral characteristics of that of a narcissist. If you really come to think about it.
Oh yeah, he's definitionally wise, a narcissist.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, we'll start right here. Let me make sure the audio's on.
In Wuhan. Will you today finally take some responsibility for funding gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator, with all due respect, I disagree with so many of the things that you've said. First of all, gain of function is a very nebulous term. We have spent, not us, but outside bodies, a considerable amount of effort to give a more precise definition to the type of research that is of concern that might lead to a dangerous situation.
So what Fauci is doing here, he's fully bullshitting. He's using political talk to say what gain of function is. As a biologist, a microbiologist, gain of function to us means that you insert a function or something extra that the genome is not doing at the time. You insert an extra gene, you insert whatever you need to for the research at hand. That is gain of function. If you're inserting any kind of protein genetic sequence into a genome, that's gain of function research. And then if you're studying the effects of what that does, that's gain of function. And he's saying it's some nebulous term here that only applies, or this is what his argument's going to be, is that it only applies to when it's made more dangerous for humans. And he tries to say it's not that. When his own NIH said that they admitted that they funded gain of function research. So we'll just say right here, we'll see it right here. It's another Fauci flip. Of course it is. The NIH has stunningly admitted to funding gain of function research on bat coronavirus at China's Wuhan lab, despite Dr. Anthony Fauci repeatedly insisted to Congress that no such thing happened. So we just saw him. We just saw him say that there's no such thing, or they weren't doing gain of function research there. When the NIH gave out this, this is the main thing, the main quote I wanted to take out of here. So the principal director, Lawrence Tabak, he wrote here, spike proteins from naturally occurring bat coronaviruses circulating in China were capable of binding to the human ACE2 receptor in a mouse model. That is gain of function. I don't care what kind of nebulous or use of the word nebulous you want to use. That's not what nebulous means. That's not what gain of function means. This was definitively gain of function research because they were inserting a protein sequence into the genome of these bat viruses, to make them be compatible with human receptors in a mouse. So they were basically making.
Didn't he try to redefine the fucking definition of gain of function when he was trying to fucking go back and forth with fucking Rand Paul?
Oh, he did. Yeah, this is that whole thing. He's trying to make it not See, before this whole thing, the NIH wasn't putting out anything. They weren't giving any kind of extra details on what had happened. But then after, it's funny because right after this exchange between Paul and Fauci, the NIH put this out and said that obviously right here, spike proteins from naturally occurring bat coronaviruses, put in the ACE2 receptor, that's gain of function research. They were making bat viruses able to infect human cells. That's what was happening, and that's gain of function research. You can't try to argue yourself out of that not being gain of function. That's what it is. Anyways, did you guys have anything to add to that?
Oh, absolutely, man. He lied, first of all.
He lied. He's a liar.
Knowing
saw him
that
right
Fauci is under oath, he's tinkering around with a lot of the jargon and making it a very semantic kind of game. Just to add a layer of plausible deniability in the event where he's found totally with his pants down, lying like a motherfucker tomorrow. So he's just playing chicken on the stand, and it's I don't think he's doing that because he's by any means negligent or ignorant. I think he's just a malicious human being.
He's malicious. Yeah, he just lies. He lies and lies and keeps lying. And he doesn't care about who it hurts from his lies. And you have
that's even worse than being negligent, by the way.
It is. It's a lot worse. From a legal
standpoint, that's worse than being negligent.
Yeah, because it'd be one thing if he was just doing all this shit and didn't mean what he was saying or didn't mean what he was doing. But he knows exactly what he was doing. He was lying his fucking ass off to Rand Paul. And we're gonna see more of this. So we'll go into the next video that we have of him.
We're not finished.
Yeah, we ain't finished here. And this is just a couple. You guys can go watch all these videos and fact check him. It's so easy to do. I don't understand how he gets this hubris about him that he can just go up there and lie and think that all of us are just dumb enough to believe him when we have the evidence. I'll show you guys right here. I'll show you guys. Here, let me see, where are we starting at? So we're starting at 1:45. Let me make sure my mic is muted really quick here.
Do you really think it's appropriate to use your $420,000 salary to attack?
So anyways, for context, what Rand is talking about here is Fauci attacked three epidemiologists, three very formidable epidemiologists at Harvard, Stanford, and what was the other one? I can't remember the other one right now. But anyways, the people who made up the Great Barrington Declaration, saying that lockdowns and mandates were not the way out of this pandemic, but rather, treating, keeping the old people, in homes and keeping them separated from the rest of the public, because obviously older people were the most affected through COVID. So he's trying to take down all of the people who are trying to say anything else other than lockdowns or mandates. So just to give you guys a little bit of context.
Scientists that disagree with you?
The email you're referring to was an email of Dr. Collins to me. If you look at the email
that you responded to and hurried up and said, I can do it. We got something in Wired magazine.
No. I think in usual fashion, Senator, you are distorting everything about me.
Did you ever object to Dr.
So distorting everything about him. Let's go see the fucking emails. Let's go, because he said it's you're distorting everything. So let's go see. What did he say? I'm not even gonna read. Let's just see this. So this is from Francis Collins. The proposal from the three fringe epidemiologists who met with the secretary seems to be getting a lot of attention, and even a co-signature from Nobel Prize winner Mike Levitt at Stanford. So these aren't people who are just spouting shit, These aren't conspiracy theorists. These are like leading scientists in their field saying that mandates and restrictions were not the way to go. And look at this. Francis Collins says there needs to be a quick and devastating published takedown of its premises. I don't see anything like that online yet. Is it underway? And let's see what Fauci responds to. So this is from Fauci. Francis, I am pasting below a piece from Wired that debunks this theory. Best, Tony. There is no scientific divide over here to me. Yes, there fucking is. The Great Barrington Declaration. Look it up, people. I've shown this on my, I think it was like the third or fourth episode. We went over the Great Barrington Declaration and what it was. And there were so many scientists signed on to that. I'm a personal believer of the Great Barrington Declaration. I think so many more people died than had to because of the lockdowns. They weren't getting outside, get sunlight. They weren't getting exercise. And that in and of itself will kill hundreds of thousands of people in a society like ours today, which is so unhealthy. So let's see what he has to say. Let's see.
Dr. Collins' characterization of them as fringe. Did you write back to Dr. Collins and say, no, they're not fringe, they're esteemed scientists, and it would be beneath me
I did not
do that? You responded to him that you would do it, and you immediately got an article in Wired, and you sent it back to him and said, hey, look, I've got him. I nailed him in Wired of all scientific
publications. That's not
what
went on. There you go again. You just do the same.
That's not what went on? We just saw it. You want me to show you guys again? Look at this. Look, he's not saying this. I am pasting below a piece from Wired that debunks this theory. That's exactly what he said, and that's exactly what Rand Paul is accusing him of, and he's saying that that's not true. This piece of garbage is lying right in front of our fucking faces, dude. He's a piece of fucking living human dog shit. I will not back down from that characterization of him, because he's a liar, he's a malicious liar, and he does this shit on purpose. And Like, he thinks we're fucking stupid. Like, we don't have, like, you can get all this shit from FOIA requests, you know? It's not hard to get this stuff. And for him to just talk through his fucking teeth like this, of course, he goes back to what you said, man. He's a full narcissist that thinks he's not going to get caught, who thinks he can just say whatever he wants, do whatever he wants, because he almost can. Biden has let him go off and do anything he wants, and Trump should have fucking fired him when he had the chance. But as you guys can see, he's fully lying about this. So we'll just continue on his thing.
Same thing every hearing.
That was your response. And
So-
this wasn't the only time. So your desire to take
You're
down
absolutely
people.
incorrect. As usual, Senator, you are
No.
incorrect almost everything you
Well,
said.
no, you deny, but the emails tell the truth of this.
No.
This wasn't the only time. Your desire to take down those who disagree with you didn't stop with Harvard, Oxford, and Stanford. You conspired with Peter Daszak, who you communicated with privately, and other members of the scientific community that wrote opinion pieces for Nature. 5 of them signed a paper for Nature, an opinion piece. 17 signed a paper that called it conspiracy theory, the idea that the virus could have originated in the lab. Do you think words like conspiracy theory should be in a scientific paper?
Senator, I never used that word when I was referring to it. You're distorting virtually everything.
Did you communicate with the 5 scientists who wrote the opinion piece in Nature where they were describing, there's no way this could have come from
Just look at Fauci's squirm. He knows he's on the line right now. He knows he's lying. He knows there's evidence out there for him. And I'll bring it up right now.
You know, he has every ability to be transparent about this.
He can just be like, yeah, I mean, we were wrong. You know, we could have been like, yeah, we were assholes about this.
We're trying to rectify the situation by consulting with people who actually know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, so
he's not going to do it because he's a narcissist. Mm-hmm. It's just the power is too overwhelming. And as they say, you know, the only thing the most powerful fear is losing power. You know, just conceding to any form of malfeasance or misinformation or malfeasance or wrongdoing it's an attack on his hubris, his psyche.
You know, and this is the email from Peter Daszak that he denies to even have. I mean, he it's funny because Rand, he gets him in a corner and he gets him to admit that he did have a conversation, but they weren't anything that Rand was talking about. And I found something from one of these letters that I really wanted to show you guys. So this is what he's talking about with the 5 other scientists. This is one of them, Christian Anderson. And this is just explaining how they don't think it's from the lab. They think it, but actually I wanted to pull something out from this really quick because I just want to show you guys how biologically this doesn't make a lot of sense. So he says here, on a phylogenetic tree, the virus looks totally normal, and the close clustering with bats suggests that bats serve as the reservoir. The unusual features of the virus make up a really small part of the genome, so one has to look really closely at all the sequences to see some of the features potentially look engineered. And as a scientist, I've done genomic research like this. I took genetics. I was in a genetics lab, and a small part of the genome, like these people are not scientifically minded. You know, he can manipulate them to think what he's saying isn't true, or what he's saying is true. Because something like that, a small part of the genome, 0.1%, you can change one codon, one of the amino acids, or not amino acids. It's one of the one nucleic acid change can change the entire protein analysis of a
it's a shift in sequence.
Yeah, of a. Yeah, I'm not explaining this the best, but of the produced products. So literally like
a strand of RNA, for example.
Don't they say? It's like, don't they say we're like 95 pounds? You know, you change 5% to total.
Well, yeah, we're so close to monkeys genetically. Like, I think chimpanzees, we share 97% of the genome. So these are things where, you know, one little tiny change in a nucleic acid could throw off the entire, you know, protein production, which changes the genotype and changes the phenotype of the organism at play.
Yes.
So, like, it's
as far as nailing down the original virus, they were trying to say it was from the wet market or whatever, and they never found anything even close.
No,
They
they
never
didn't.
found anything even close, even in the wild.
Yep, they tested all the animals at the wet market. They found nothing like the virus. They tested all the animals that they were getting from the cave where they were getting these bats, where they tried to mark the blame on first. But
I never believed the bat soup stories. I never believed them.
no, it just seems no. I mean,
I think the photos of the scientists who were working in the hills to isolate some form of the coronavirus from those animals was deleted as soon as the pandemic really caught fire. A lot of the photos and a lot of the evidence of the laboratory was just straight up purged. Oh yeah.
yeah, and we've talked about this in a
Man,
ahead.
I heard that someone had sex with penguins. That's where it came from.
Randy Marsh, that bastard. God, that threw off my train of thought. Now I'm like,
I thought this was America.
I thought this was America. Oh my God. But anyways, yeah, we talked about in a previous episode how Fauci flip-flop on this lab hypothesis, because once the science started to come out that there was no way this could have came from a natural source, or is like 99.999% chance it's not from a natural source, then Fauci started to be like, oh, maybe we need to start looking into stuff like that.
Years later, 2 years later, I think.
Yeah, we were talking about this a year ago. I remember a year ago when Fauci was flip-flopping on the lab stuff, and you see right here he's lying straight to Rand Paul's face. He's lying about his whole characterization of what's been going on.
And people's accounts are getting scrubbed by just talking about that a year ago.
Yeah.
For a propagation of misinformation. They were just getting banned and scrubbed.
Yeah. So there's one more thing I wanted to show you guys. It was just what Fauci said. Oh, where'd it go? But it was basically... so Francis Collins, head of the NIH, he wrote an op-ed, I think, in the Washington Post about how stupid people were to think that the virus came from a lab, formulated virus, and he was saying that him and his colleagues who wrote an op-ed also for the Washington Post shouldn't have been as nice. I'm sad I can't find it right now on the go. Where is it? Where? I don't know. I don't remember where it was from. But anyways, yeah, you guys can see we're fact checking him on the fly. He's completely lying. He's lying to our representative's face. I mean, obviously not ours. He's a Kentucky representative, but he still represents the people here in America. He's lying straight to their face. And it's so frustrating that he wasn't fired like the day after this happened. But no, you have a bunch of zealots and science, what is it, like scientism believers of this fucker who are making him out to be a saint, that they will never do anything to him. They, like you guys were saying, they fail up. They get paid the most highly of any government officials, and they have no accountability. There's zero accountability for people like Fauci, and it's so sad. Other than shows like this where we can actively fact check him on the fly.
It's not even an elected position that he holds.
No, it's not elected. It's I don't even know.
Bureaucratic.
It's probably just full appointed. Yeah. But anyways, as you guys see,
I'm elected bureaucrat, dude.
Yeah. But we'll let this play out, and then we'll finish out the episode here.
Not me. What I did.
Did you talk with any of those scientists privately?
You keep distorting the truth. It is stunning how you do that. Did you talk to
any of the scientists privately?
Yes.
Who wrote the opinion? You did. Well, what were they telling you privately?
Well, let me explain. You're going back to that original discussion when I brought together a group of people to look at every possibility with an open mind. So not only are you distorting it, you are completely turning it around.
Saying he's coming to an open mind. What a fucking liar. You guys can see from the Francis Collins, he jumped on it. Let me just bring that up one more time. He jumped on the fact that Francis Collins was asking him to find some evidence against the Great Barrington Declaration. There needs to be a quick and devastating published takedowns of his premises. And then what did Fauci say? I am pasting in below a piece from Wire that debunks this theory. Best Tony. There was no There was no open mind about it. There was like, oh, they might have some good ideas on this. No, it was full. They were trying to take down these people and like
total elimination of dissent.
And just what Rand Paul said, he wasn't using scientific peer-reviewed research to take these science down. He was going to Wired, a political fucking media organization that publishes bullshit like this, or at least opinions like this. But anyways, we've seen how clearly he's lied. But
Preferred opinion piece.
But anyways, this is gonna be one of our short ones. We're almost done. We're just gonna get into a couple things that Fauci said in the past couple weeks, and another flip flop. And he just can't stop from flip flopping because he's not.
Just the community college level alone, when doing science projects, you'll get a slap on the wrist for sharing opinionated pieces like that. And he was actually using that as a legitimate vice for, oh, I'm right.
I mean, not even community college. I remember, let me mute this really quick. I remember in high school, I was part of an astronomy seminar, and we did peer-reviewed research to find the orientations of stars, update where they were on the star charts. And we had to go through grueling peer-reviewed research. We couldn't use our opinions. We couldn't use anything like that. We had to use other papers who had relevant science in our field to update the research and the science. We couldn't just post an op-ed saying that, oh, he's wrong and these are the reasons he's wrong. No, we got to go through the peer review fucking process in order to make some of these claims, which he didn't do. He voted to use a piece from Wired, which just it just pisses me off as a scientist, because I go through such painstaking process to find sources that are legitimate, sources that are true, sources that are fact-checked and peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed being the best of them all, peer-reviewed double-blind study, that's, the gold standard. And he's not doing that. He's a head scientist, he's not even doing it. I feel like I can make this claim now.
But even then...
Go ahead.
Dude, even then, though, with the fucking, with the peer-reviewed studies, that have money behind it. So the fact that he wouldn't even do that, when they usually push whatever the narrative wants, they push whatever the narrative wants because it's backed by money, and you can fudge the data, you can fucking fudge the people you have involved with the study, what data points you use, and all that. But the fact they don't even do that,
they don't even do it.
Trying.
Yeah, they're not even trying. Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point you brought up, because a lot of peer-reviewed research, even though the findings could be reliable, there is a lot of money behind them trying to, find the conclusions that they're paying for. A lot of these, especially, the COVID vaccine, there's a lot of money behind it, a lot of money pushing for it to just get pushed through, and for these studies to be, done so it can get approved by the FDA and get shots out to literally everyone.
So when you're talking about the fucking vaccines and all that stuff, right? Dude, I was hearing some shit where they're able to that had adverse reactions from the study data.
Oh yeah.
Where they're able to actually kind of systematically remove the people that they don't actually want in the final count or results.
Yeah, they can do that with. I mean, it's just a part of the statistics of the studies going at hand. But yeah, they can throw out whatever data they want and bring in whatever data they want, basically. And that's a good point. All the adverse and all the side effects from the vaccine, all the people who have died, who have gotten side effects from it, they don't get reported on.
These are questions that the average person probably wouldn't have that level of understanding of science and statistics to be able to ask. When I was doing different studies for the university that I attend, we do various different things with samples. We collect stratified samples, convenient sampling, cluster sampling, and the methods that they're using at the NIH at the head level, top of the top level, at the American bureaucratic level, is none that would ever have been declared ethical by any stretch of the imagination. What they're able to get away with doing. Swear.
Nope. Just insane. Yeah, just all government funded research, and they try to quell any research that proves them wrong. It's crazy how much of the ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine research they've tried to discredit, even though there's very significant findings there. I just found out about this a month or two ago that the reason hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin work is because they're zinc ionophore. It's basically a channel for zinc to get into the cell, and zinc has antiviral properties. And I never knew that. Like all I ever heard was, oh, ivermectin doesn't work because it's antiparasitic. And same reason
dewormer, horse dewormer.
Yeah, same reason for hydroxychloroquine. And nobody ever explained the science to me. And when I heard the science, I was like, well, that makes sense. And then, I go find the research on it, and it's there.
So even at a minimum, so like the whole thing with the vitamin D.
Yeah.
So the whole reason that black and brown communities were having more of an effect from the disease is lack of vitamin D. Like, because obviously if you have more melanin in your skin, you're not going to absorb as much of the vitamin D from the sunlight. And they were finding out that people that were vitamin D deficient were having 4 times more likely negative effects from the virus.
Yeah, and that on top of the lockdowns forcing people to stay inside. Think how all this stuff starts to add up. They're making they're causing all of these deaths. I mean, you can go watch. This is my theory that really the deaths started to spike when they put in the restrictions, because COVID was here since December. It is proven to be here, and the antibodies from blood samples back all the way back from December 2019. COVID was here, and it was prevalent through the population. But you don't see the deaths start to spike until lockdowns. Right about mid-March. It's just a weird kind of thing. I really believe, and I might be wrong on this, but if we would have never done any lockdowns, if we would have just done kind of a voluntary approach to this, if you're scared, stay home, but keep necessary functions going. If you still want to go out, let them do that. But we didn't do that. We went into full lockdowns, full restrictions,
full authoritative mode.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Hey, so I finally got it.
Oh, COVID? Yeah.
No, finally. People started getting vaccinated. No, I'm just kidding. But no, so I've been out of work. I've been out of work this last week, right? And I can't go back to work till Wednesday, right? And I hadn't taken a test this whole time. I hadn't taken a test the whole fucking time, right? I didn't know that I had it. Never took a sick day. Fucking worked the whole time, and then I finally I guess I got it. Last Saturday I had a fucking a fever and like a little bit of headache and shit, and my body was aching and shit. And I fucking tested positive for over a week, and then now I'm fucking. They said I can go back to work Wednesday with the positive test on Friday.
Really? Wow. Well, you're probably going to be testing positive for a while, but
but it's like this whole fucking time. It's fucking kind of weird timing. I mean, they just approved some shit in California, so I get paid. I can at least get paid and shit, but yeah, fucking the whole time. Never took a test. Never did any of that. But I was sick one day, and part of company policy is I have to show like a fucking negative test before you come back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most likely, maybe it was your first time getting it, this past week. But just from the statistics and the data that's out, you probably had it before. Because
I thought I had it. No, I thought I had it. So check it out. Like back in December of 2018, right?
December
2018. December.
That's a while ago.
The beginning of it, right?
2019.
My whole house is sick, dude. My wife, my kids.
Oh yeah, same.
I had it really bad in December.
Yeah, no, I remember everybody getting sick back in December, January, 2019, 2020.
Yeah, dude, yeah. So fucking everybody was sick, and it was bad enough to where I actually took my kids to the hospital, or the doctor or whatever, and they tested them. They tested them for RSV, which is respiratory syndrome virus or whatever, RSV or whatever. Usually, They came up negative, and they're like, "No, we're sure this is what it is." And around that time, like my wife lost her.
Oh yeah, it's totally COVID then.
Shit. Dude, and that was before they even said COVID was here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean
And fucking.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah, no. And around that time, then like a little bit after that, dude, I had some fucking gnarly ass lung shit. I had some
Same
like
thing
lung
happened
shit
to me.
last for like 2 months. But it's like, who's to say? Who's to know what any of that shit is? Who's to say that this COVID that I have right now, like that I had right now, isn't being picked up as something else or whatever? Like I don't know, whatever it was, dude. I'll take it over the flu any day, dude. Because like I didn't throw up.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
just a fever,
for sure.
body aches, dude, and fucking then they made me stay home. Yeah,
Well, yeah,
and luckily they're paying me.
I've talked about this in a previous episode. The flu was so much worse when it was first here. Like it had a infection fatality rate of upwards of 10%. You know, so 10% of your fucking friends and family around you were fucking dying. You know, and it's just really fucking bad. And, you know, obviously COVID, it's been bad for a lot of people, but comparatively from the novel flu virus to the novel COVID virus, the flu is so much fucking worse. And it like for younger people, it is still worse in my opinion. I mean, obviously, death rates are probably a little bit higher
Dude,
with COVID, but
dude, I remember hallucinating as a kid, dude, like with the flu.
The flu,
like,
yeah.
Burning up, like fucking having fucking fever dreams and all that shit, like gnarly that shit. You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But anyways,
Yeah, I was sick
what
back in
did we-
December of 2019 because I was working a gig as Santa Claus, you know, over down south, and I was seeing like a gazillion kids, man, coming in and out, and I was after the whole thing was said and done, I was feeling like super ill, and I was unable to breathe. It was getting even worse. I started spitting up blood, and they said, oh, it's bronchitis starting to turn into pneumonia. I was like, damn, man, I just got it like 2 or 3 or 4 days ago, and it's already like they're already diagnosing me with bronchitis and pneumonia and some kind of respiratory infection.
Illness, yeah.
Yeah, and they just told me, oh, we don't know what it is. We just let it run its course. You know, that's exactly what I did. I was on fever reducers, taking a shitload of vitamins, and staying hydrated. And, that's how I ended up getting over it. So shit, man. It's like 3 months later when all that mass hysteria kicked in. Yeah, I think even my own family was nearly boarding up their windows. Like, oh, we don't want the COVID to come in here and kill us.
But getting back to hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, things that could actually make a difference, you know, in the early stages of COVID, you have a total media campaign to destroy any sort of legitimacy around these drugs, that we're proving a lot or giving people a lot of help. There are peer-reviewed studies on this kind of stuff. But anyways, that's a little off topic. And we're going to wrap it up here with some of the Fauci, what he said in the past 2 weeks. And basically the second to last one is basically what we've been saying for the past year and a half. So Fauci, U.S. exiting full-blown pandemic phase of coronavirus crisis. And so Fauci said that new developments that limit COVID-19, including vaccination, medical treatments, and prior infection, will alter the pandemic situation significantly in the coming months. I just want to point out here, there are no new developments. We've had the vaccine for over a year now. Medical treatments, we've had ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, we've had those early treatments, and prior infection, that's something we've had too. These are things that haven't changed here. So this new opinion that he's going to state here, so as he says, as we get out of the full-blown pandemic phase of COVID-19, which we're certainly heading out of, these decisions will increasingly be made on a local level rather than centrally decided or mandated. There will also be more people making their own decisions on how they want to deal with the virus, which is what we've been saying for the past year and a half. And
now they're just barely recognizing the importance of vitamin D.
Yeah, and there's no science that has changed in any of this. The one place where you can say that science changed is when the vaccines got here. That's when they should have had these statements coming out. Those are the new developments. We've got a vaccine. We've got a way to treat this. Let's get back to normal life. All right, COVID's still going to be out there just like the flu, but let's get back to it. And he, after a year of the vaccines being out, he finally says something like this. But then we'll see, just last week, he flopped again. So Fauci says future requirement for additional COVID-19 boosters being monitored. So this goes right in the face of him saying that things should be more locally dealt with. This goes to him right back into thinking that a federal mandate for another booster is the way to go. So he said, Fauci said the annual COVID-19 booster shots may not be needed for every American. So may not, that means he's very heavily considering it. So So this is what he said. The potential future requirement for an additional boost or a fourth shot for mRNA or a third shot in J&J is being very carefully monitored in real time, and recommendations, if needed, will be updated according to the data as it evolves. This data is not evolving. We're coming out of the pandemic, yes, but we've been coming out of the pandemic since the vaccines got here. And the only reason the pandemic is raging on is because of these mandates and them still making people afraid for their lives to go outside for a fucking virus that only affects older people significantly. It's so ridiculous. You have all these people in their 20s scared for their life, and you have all these, I've seen on Facebook, all these mothers that are in their mid-30s, late 20s being like, oh, I gotta get, my 4-year-old child vaccinated. No, you fucking don't. That's dangerous. Do not vaccinate your 4-year-old child. That is not what you need to be doing. They're at the least likely to develop any sort of severe symptoms from COVID, and as long as they are healthy and are not immunocompromised, they should not be getting this shot, because in all likelihood they've already had COVID, either symptomatically or asymptomatically. They already have the antibodies, and even if they don't, they're the most ready to make the new antibodies and not have any severe side effects from having COVID. So the fact, I hate that. I hate it so much.
Hey, here in fucking Sacramento, right? Like, this is one of the first districts that tried to institute the fucking either vaccinate or be fucking tested once a week, right? And I had a big ass issue about it. I haven't even been letting them test them, and the fucking deadline or whatever is like the 28th of this month. I'm not even letting them test them.
No,
I want my daughter to.
I wouldn't let them test them either, because all those official tests, all that DNA is going to China. There's a source on it somewhere, but
so they gave us some fucking at-home tests over like a holiday, over a holiday or some shit, like where they wanted them to test themselves. I didn't do any of that shit, and then when it actually hit my house, when it hit me and my kids and fucking like all my kids and shit. Like we fucking finally tested them and they're like, oh, we're positive now. It's like, but like, dude, they wanted them to test every week whether or not they're sick. Well, I get if they're sick, but then once they're sick and I have them test through the school program, they automatically enroll them in a third-party testing program where they fucking come through once a week and they want my daughter to test herself. I'm not about any of this.
No,
so,
it's
like, the deadline's the 28th of this month, and then we're probably just gonna pull them. You know, it's like it's fucking crazy.
I would
Quit
too.
testing healthy people, dude. Like, quit testing fucking people that aren't sick. You know?
Because
it's like the mask thing. The mask thing was only ever used before for people that are actually sick. Like, if you're actually sick, you should wear a mask. You know.
That's what hypochondriacs do. They're like perfectly healthy, but they're constantly checking notes. Like, oh shit, man, maybe I have this, maybe I have that.
Well, they've made the whole society into hypochondriacs. They've made everybody afraid for their fucking lives over a virus that has less than a 0.5 fucking chance of dying on average.
To literally breathe oxygen, because they're wearing like 2 masks and a face shield or whatever.
Yeah, these people are just alone in their cars.
The job I was working on when COVID hit. Like right when COVID hit and it became a thing, half the crew quit. Like, we had like 70 or 80 electricians. Half the crew fucking quit.
Damn.
You know?
Yeah.
But I was making more than 1,000 a week, so like I just kept working.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, they scared a bunch of people. I mean, and this would have happened even with like we would have already started self-isolating without any of this fucking mandate, lockdown bullshit. Because I remember it was a week before they instituted the legit mandates, the lockdowns. You can't leave your house or anything. And people were already fucking like they're already wearing masks. They were already like in their house. There was not a lot of people out. Like, these were things that really didn't. Basis. Yeah, these are things that didn't need to happen. And that's another thing. Testing healthy people and healthy children. It's like, what are you gonna do even if the kid tests positive? It's like they're already got it, so you can't get them a vaccine, and they're a child, so they're most statistically likely to make it out with even any debilitations at all. You know, I think the statistics go, there have only been around 20 kids who have died from just COVID who didn't have any other complications. And to be locking down all these children like this and enforcing them all these policies on them for 20 kids that have died out of 360 million is fucking insane. Like, that is an outlier. That is a statistical outlier, and we should not be worried about like outliers.
Anyway, the term natural immunity.
No, dude. And because of all that, right? Like, I was trying to protest it, right? I was trying to protest it, like, basically, like, oh, she's sick. Like, oh, I'm just gonna fucking hold her out. I'm not gonna test her. Because, like, they fucking were pushing all this testing shit and, like, trying to protest it a little bit, dude. Like, what? So every time my daughter has a runny nose, like, I gotta keep her home for 2 weeks?
Right?
You know?
Yeah.
And then we finally broke it down. So we finally broke it down this last time when I actually had COVID. And we're like, okay, we'll test her so you can go back to school and shit. And then the whole house got it. You know what I mean? But it's like, dude, like, if you're fucking not sick enough to, like, where it's actually like, oh, hey, I probably should, like, test for it. Like, there's no point in it. There's no point in it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was trying to hold out as long as I could, but it's like, dude, how long am I supposed to keep my fucking daughter out of school? You know, because of your bullshit policy.
Yeah.
You know, and this is, like, one of the only districts in California that is actually pushing. Aside from LA. Is it LA? Sacramento. You know, like, that's all you know.
Well, I mean, my sister's going through the same shit. She's 13, and she can't even, like, if she has a headache, then she has to go home. It's like, fuck, when I was a kid, like, I get headaches all the time. You know, it's just a normal thing. Or, you know, you have a little sniffy nose. You know, it's just normal colds that go around. You know, and people freaking out like it's fucking, even if it was COVID. Like, these people are freaking out over something that has a risk factor that's so fucking low that like, people no longer know how to evaluate risk factors in their lives. It's like they like anything with a 0.00001 chance of even hurting them, they should completely stay away from. When we get in cars every day, you know, like one of the most dangerous modes of transportation, you know, and
the prefrontal cortex has been
dude,
rerouted.
your child is more at risk driving to school than they are fucking from COVID. Like, you taking your child to school in a car is statistically more dangerous than COVID.
Significantly, yeah, by a long shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I did this on a previous episode. We found that accidents, if you get in a car accident here in the U.S., you have about a 5% chance of dying. So, and scientists were trying to make the argument that COVID was more dangerous than getting in a car accident. They had some wacky statistics, but I went through and saw the data, and
mental gymnastics at work.
Yeah, it's 10. Getting in a car is tenfold more dangerous to you than getting COVID. And this is just something that people have to understand. You have to understand how to evaluate risk factors in your own life, and you can't be listening to people like Fauci that fucking don't know what they're talking about and are only saying things for political benefit. And I really think he's got some people behind him either threatening him, or he's just such a narcissist that he actually believes all of his own bullshit. But anyways, I hope you guys have seen like the liar and the menacing evil person that Fauci is, and I hope that you've learned something. And do you guys have anything else to add on Fauci as a person and as a scientist?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say about 5 minutes ago something to the effect of the term natural immunity being, you know, an onslaught against that term by these very departments. You know, it's threatening in a sense where they will remove you if you specifically talk about the very real concept of developing a natural immunity to a particular strain of a virus or cold or whatever. You know.
Yeah, but do you have anything to add, Nick?
Nah, I'm just saying. Like, I think I'm like one of the next books I'm going to read is the real Anthony Fauci.
I think so too. I want to read that too, because I mean, we only covered a couple of things that you know he's done. I bet that book has the whole picture. You know.
Or at least catch the audio book, dude. Because like I fucking I just like I did the little free thing on Audible. You get like you get a couple free books
you get a couple free
and shit.
ones. Yeah.
You get a little thing on there, just like because dude, like, fuck, I listen to podcasts all day anyways, and, usually. But, like, dude, like, start catching books on audiobook,
Yeah, it's basically the same thing. I mean, I remember listening to Lord of the Rings. I mean, not really relevant, but it's an easy form of medium, and you can listen to it while you're at work, say the podcast and everything. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys know a little better of what kind of person Fauci is. He should not be praised as a saint. He shouldn't even be praised as a good scientist. And the more people we can get this information out to, the better. So we can, I don't know, have some sort of action. Because he should have been fired a long time ago. Like what Rand Paul says. I mean, I'm going to try my hardest to go out and campaign for Rand Paul. I mean, he's probably going to win. But I just want to get him as much support out there as he can get. Because they're going to be throwing, from just these... Senate hearings alone that he is this year.
Oh shit.
Just from these Senate hearings alone, they're going to be throwing everything they can at him, and I really feel like I have to be out there and support him and do everything I can to make sure he stays in Congress, because he has done an invaluable service to us, exposing the kind of man Fauci is. And he's helped us with this podcast. We've used him in this podcast, so that's what I'm going to be doing.
He is Ron Paulson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
like, my nigga.
Apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, man.
Yeah.
That's a good thing in the case of Ron Paul.
Yeah. Anyways, just again, I hope you guys learned something, and definitely go look up this stuff on your own. Don't just take our word for it, and keep it spicy out there, and don't believe what these fucking people have to say, especially Fauci. So keep it spicy.